Your generous principal here at St. Ambrose told me something right before Mass that, among some other things recently, has made my day. And I'm looking for things to make my day because, of course, I miss our cathedral very much, and I miss our Holy Father very, very, very deeply. So I'm looking for things to make my day. And just the kind of a thing that would do it would be that out of 14 students who were asked, 11, when they were asked, would you consider religious vocation, said yes. 11 out of 14. And I'm sure before the wonderful staff here and Father Terry are finished, the other 3 will come along. Just nudge them along. And I chose my words carefully. I said, would consider a religious vocation. Because if we think about it, the whole point of Catholic education, the word means to lead out. You probably know that in Latin. To lead from somewhere to somewhere. And for every single young woman or young man who's getting a Catholic education, that education should lead them from wherever they are in your glorious youthfulness to what it is that Christ wants you to do. Catholic education leads to Jesus Christ. It doesn't lead anywhere else. More and more, when you're born again in the waters of baptism, washed clean from sin, energized by the water, like when you go for a swim on a hot day, we'll get back to that. Energized by that water, you go forth to Christ in whatever vocation He chooses for you. Remember, He says, you have not chosen me, I have chosen you. And He says that to all of you young women and men at St. Ambrose. You have not chosen me, I have chosen you to be a good wife and a good mother. I have chosen you to be a good dad and a good husband. And never forget that. That's the vocation of most disciples of Christ. Marriage. And we always say, oh, there's a shortage of priests. I say, and so does everybody else, there's a shortage of really good marriages. There's a terrible shortage of really good marriages in Christ. And that's why there's a shortage of priests. Priests come from really good marriages. So it's a wonderful thing when Jesus Christ calls a young woman to be a good wife and mother, calls a young man to be a great dad and a good husband. And that's where priests come from, those good marriages. And then for those young women who are called to the consecrated life, that's a special grace. Those of the young men who are called to the priesthood, that's a very special grace. That means you'd love to be a good mom or a good wife. You'd love to be a good dad or a good husband. But Jesus called you to give up what you would love to do. And you sacrifice it. And it's a real sacrifice because you would love to do it. It's like when you have to do your homework instead of going to a Packers game. That's a sacrifice. But sometimes you have to do it. And Jesus gives you the grace to make the sacrifices. He makes you strong. He makes you a witness. That's what Catholic education is for. To lead you, Christ takes you by the hand and He leads you to the point where you're a witness. Now, hear that word in the Scriptures all during Easter time. Jesus says to the apostles, you are witnesses of this. And then we hear Peter and the other apostles We hear Paul and all their preaching saying, Jesus suffered, he died, and he rose, and we are witnesses of this. We're witnesses. That means we're strong in Christ. As a good husband or dad, as a good wife or mom, as a good consecrated sister, as a good priest, we're strong. And that means we got to always say what's right. We got to always tell the truth. We have to tell the truth that the way Jesus wants us to live is right, and a lot of things that the world wants us to do are wrong. We have to stand up and tell the truth. We got to be strong. And we also have to do what's right. You know, you have to say, all of you guys and gals here, students at St. Ambrose, you look kind of angelic sitting here. You can go home and give mom or dad a real when you get for it. So only say what's right, say the truth, but we go home and we do what's right. Maybe mom and dad had a bad day, and maybe all it would take for Jesus to fix that would be for you or me to go home and be nice, go out of our way to do something, instead of saying, I don't want to do it. I got to go and listen to my music. At St. Ambrose, they probably don't encourage you to listen to insane clown posse. But you don't want to have to go home and, you know, mom or dad wants you to do something and you say, no, I got to go listen to ICP. No. That's what it is to witness. To say what's right and to do what's right, and to let Jesus lead you, as the Pope says, out into the deep. He loves that expression, where Jesus said to the apostles, put out into the deep. So we go back to the swimming pool. In our faith in Jesus Christ, we're not supposed to stand at the edge of the pool. Let's pretend that this is the pool. We're not supposed to stand in our faith and kind of dip a toe in. See how the water is. And that's what a lot of people do. We could call them big toe Christians. They're always just checking out the water with their big toe. They're right here on the edge. You know, if it's not just right, I'll go listen to ICP. You know, then you got others. Oh no, I'll come down. I'll wade in nice and slow. I'll just take my time. And if it's a little cold or a little unpleasant when it gets up to my knees, out I go. And we can call them the Christians of the knees. So we got big toe Christians and we got knee-deep Christians. But Jesus said, put out into the deep. In other words, dive in. Let him take you by both hands and lead you to be a great dad or husband, lead you to be a great wife, mom, lead you to be a great consecrated sister, lead you to be a great priest. Let him do it. Always with joy, always with hope. And that's why John Paul the Great was called rightfully by his biographer, and that's what he thought of himself, a witness to hope. A witness. Strong, willing to die for the faith, and always full of hope, always full of joy, even at the great pain at the end. What a witness to hope. Remember that. He was worried when he saw those who worked closely with him as he really faded last Wednesday and last Thursday. He was worried that he saw them starting to cry and to get really sad. And he made sure that they got a note from him. He couldn't speak and he couldn't write, but he kind of stood out, and they got a note. I'm happy, and I want you to be happy. I'll never forget that. Imagine that with all the pain he had, that he was leaving the world. Imagine that. I'm happy, and I want you to be happy. That's a witness to hope. And the only way you're going to get that way is through Jesus Christ and your life in him. And the whole point of Catholic education, the whole reason we're in the school business, is to lead you there. We have no other reason. If a Catholic school doesn't lead you to Jesus Christ, then it's very simple. Then it costs too much. We believe in Catholic schools because we believe they're the best way for you to find Jesus Christ. But apart from that, we have no other purpose. You know, we don't want to have, I don't know what. We're not private schools that keep us safe from certain problems that public schools have. That's not a good enough reason to have a Catholic school. We don't like the public school. We want a safe place. All parents want a safe place. All parents want it. That's not a good reason. Jesus Christ is the reason. And I know that the parents at St. Ambrose believe that. And we've got to spread that Christ is the reason for the Catholic schools. Not to have some kind of a private place where we feel better about where the kid is all day. That's not the point. Not some place where the discipline is a little stricter and it's the way I like it. Nothing makes less sense than Catholic parents sending their Catholic children to a Catholic school, and then the parents don't go to Mass with them every single Sunday. Nothing makes less sense than that. I know you're not that way. You're here and it's not even Sunday. But there are some Catholic schools that have that problem. We teach the Mass is the most important thing in your life, and then the students go home and the parents don't go to church. I might as well take my both hats off and bang my head against the wall if it's going to be that way. No, the school is to lead people to Jesus Christ. And it's always important for mom and dad to remember their vocation as husband and father, as wife and mother. The school helps mom and dad so that you find Jesus Christ. That's all it is. And mom and dad come first. They have the major responsibility. And if mom and dad take that responsibility seriously, then we help. And if we do that, we all wind up witnesses of hope, just like John Paul the Great. And that's terrific, because if we're like that, then at the end, when we see Jesus coming to call us, and other people that are going to miss us start to get sad, we can say, look, I'm happy, and I want you to be happy. What could be better than that?